I want to make a very serious request, in fact, a basic demand of Sri Rahul Gandhi. I sincerely hope that he will accede to my request. What is that request? Before I state the request, I need to state the context. In his speech in the parliament, which has become quite understandably very controversial because it has created a great impact and a certain degree of panic in certain quarters. Attempts are being made to present or represent or distort what is said, especially about Hinduism, namely that he defamed Hinduism and caused infamy to that noble faith by alleging that to be a religion of violence, hinsa. सारे हिंदू लोग हिंसक हैं. Now, I have to say that I was listening to his speech from start to finish in rapt attention, just as I was listening to the speech by my Prime Minister, Sri Modi ji, from start to finish in rapt attention, because that's a courtesy I extend to political leaders that they consider to be worthy of attention. I give attention to everybody who has anything to say, because as a teacher, I have to be a student. The most basic strength of a teacher is that he is an avid, keen, lifelong student. I try to learn from everyone, even from my adversaries. Therefore, I listen to every word that Sri Rahul Gandhi and Sri Narendra Modi said by way of their most important speeches in the recently concluded session of the Parliament, the Lok Sabha. And for the life of me, I cannot recall a single word that Sri Rahul Gandhi said which aims at denigrating Hinduism. On the other hand, if I understood him right, he spoke as one distinguished by an inspired sense of respect for the Hindu faith. And he stated emphatically that Hinduism is a religion that insists on fundamental values and ideals like nonviolence, truth, compassion, so on and so forth. But he did say that certain people who claim themselves to be Hindus, now that's, I think, the word he used, or the formulation he used. Certain people who call themselves Hindus go about resorting to falsehood, to violence, so on and so forth. Now, probably it's a problem with the English language. Now, in the Indian context, I'm not surprised if what is said in the English language is mistaken or misunderstood. So it is possible, and I assume that there is such a possibility. It is possible that those who heard him, at least some of those who heard him, especially on the treasury benches, got a distorted idea, a mistaken notion of what he actually meant. What he meant was not understood aright by the people, at least a section of the people who heard him on that occasion. Now, therefore, the request that I want to make. The request is as follows. When a person makes a statement in public, he has a duty to make his meaning absolutely clear, certainly clear beyond any reasonable doubt. There is a certain element of risk in speaking in a language that is actually not native to us. As someone who has devoted a lifetime trying to learn the English language and still haven't reached anywhere near the mark, I'm particularly conscious of the perils, the risks, the dangers in trying to communicate in English in the general public context. Because not everybody listening to a speaker in English is used to the terminology, the syntax, the idioms, the particularly native codes, linguistic codes of the language. And therefore, there is a large margin of possibility and therefore grounds for genuine apprehension that what one meant or what one means is horribly misunderstood. Such a possibility does exist. There's no doubt about it, particularly in a context which is also vitiated by prejudices and presuppositions. For example, if you assume that a certain speaker is an enemy of Hinduism, then it's quite likely that irrespective of what he said, the persons who listened to him, at least as a few people among his listeners, would come to the conclusion that whatever he spoke was harmful to Hinduism because he's assumed to be an enemy of Hinduism. As Kabir, the great Hindi poet, said, if a drunkard, a man who is known as a drunkard, carries a bottle of pure milk in his hand, those who see him will only think that he is carrying a bottle of liquor, a bottle of toddy, country toddy, which is tapped and taken from the coconut tree. So that's how it is in public life. Therefore, to the extent that a certain misapprehension, a certain distorted version of what he actually should have said in the parliament is now making the rounds, and deliberate attempts are being made to foment tension, enmity, hostility based on what he's supposed to have said, which can have horrendous consequences. It can result in the sort of violence, acts of aggression that the whole country will feel embarrassed about it. So, reckoning or taking into account such possibilities which needed to be avoided at all costs, I make a definite and insistent request, indeed a demand of Rahul Gandhi to do two things. One, he need to now make a very clear statement, either in the video format or in the form of a written statement, a detailed statement as to what he actually said, what he meant by saying what he said, with reference only to the Hindu religion, because that's the point of controversy, in order to settle this very unhealthy controversy at rest at the earliest. Now, it is very likely that even after he makes his position clear, those who think that they can make political capital out of it would continue to insist that what is meant was something else other than what he would clarify. That possibility always exists, but that's up to them. But on his part, he would have cleared the deck as far as this particular apprehension or this allegation is concerned. He can come clear, and he needs to come clear. As far as I am concerned, as far as the well-meaning people of India in their tens and thousands who heard him speak, there is absolutely no doubt at all that he did not say a single word meant to denigrate Hinduism. Rather, he said everything that he said in order to defend the nobility, the light, and the greatness of the core of the spiritual core of the Sanatan faith, the Hindu faith, in whatever he said in the parliament. And every word that he said struck my imagination, my religious sensibility as very well expressed, and something that needed to be clarified as far as the greatness of the Hindu, the Sanatan faith is concerned. I don't think anyone would ever dispute that violence, falsehood, cruelty, etc., can be associated with the spiritual core of the Hindu religion and worldview. After all, the father of the nation, the champion of Indian freedom, etc., is a product of that great faith. And he not only believed that God is truth, he went a step further and said, truth is God. That is to say, if you remove truth from the Hindu religion, nothing will be left. And to the best of my recollection, Rahul Gandhi was saying pretty much the same thing. In fact, as I sat listening to him, my memories went back to the statements of the Mahatma concerning Hinduism. Be that as it may, so far as an orchestrated attempt is being made to create a lot of tensions within the Hindu community, using this as a basis, I think it will be highly necessary. It is very much in place. It is required. It is the need of the hour for Rahul Gandhi to make an explicit statement, if possible, interspersed with visuals from the statement that he made, of small video clippings pertaining to this relevant sections of his speech, so that this issue is clarified. The second thing, the second request or demand I make is as follows, which is related to the first. I would request Sri Rahul Gandhi to issue a series of 4, 5, 6 lectures on the spiritual core of Hinduism. What is the essence of the Sanatan faith? And to do so in a manner, to present the substance in a manner that would benefit a non-Hindu like me. I would like to know more and more about Hinduism. Now, for a reason, let me state that reason also. We pride ourselves on our tradition as a multi-religious society. And the whole world looks at us with some degree of respect and envy. That India is unique in this respect, that in spite of the diversity and multiplicity of religions, we live in comparative peace. And to a large extent, that is, the credit must go to Hinduism. So I'm personally convinced that Hinduism is a peace-loving, peace-promoting religion. But the problem that I face is this, that even though we live in a multi-religious society, we know nothing of each other's faith. Here, various faiths exist, but they don't coexist. It is a misnomer to say, or it's a wrong description to say, that India is a religion in which India is a country in which various religions coexist. No religion coexists here. Religions exist in their own separate watertight compartments. There is no cross-pollination of religious ideas and experiences. Hindus live in their context, Christians live in their enclaves, Muslims live in their own courtyard. There is no sharing or exchange of ideas, insights, experiences. Now, multi-religious context becomes meaningful when there are opportunities or there are fora where the spiritual treasures of various religious traditions can be brought together and caused to interact or cross-pollinate each other, so that newer and further spiritual insights may be born. India is the most ideal place for this to happen, and this needs to happen sooner than later. If at all this is to happen, you have to puncture the barriers erected between religions, and that is possible only if authentic interpretations of various spiritual traditions are made available to the citizens. I don't expect this to happen from the priestly class of any religion because A, they don't have the competence, B, they are unfortunately, genuinely suspicious of any such exchange of experiences and views, because they fear that their flock would leave their fold, leaving them high and dry. So the priestly vested interests prevent their followers from coming to know anything that is good of other people's faiths or other faiths, which is very unfortunate. I don't think this sort of institutionalized ignorance of each other's religion does us any good. Rather, it keeps us strangers to each other in terms of our religious traditions. It doesn't help at all. So as a Christian thinker, I would like to know something authentic. And I would like that to come from a non-priestly person. And I feel that Sri Rahul Gandhi is eminently suited to give a series of lectures. He can take his time over it, maybe 3 months, 6 months, maybe 1 year. He's a busy person, I know. But he has understood, in terms of what I have heard so far, I think he has understood the heart of Hinduism. And he is in a very, very advantageous position to help, especially non Christians, to understand the essence, the spirit, and the essence of this great faith, which the world looks at with awe and wonder. And I've had the occasion to read several books pertaining to how European scholars, including British scholars, view the Sanathan faith, especially its philosophical core and spiritual light, with such amazing, inexhaustible wonder and admiration. Max Muller is one, an instance that comes to mind readily, and there are several others. um, so, two requests. One, a comprehensive statement as to what he actually said in the course of his speech in the parliament pertaining to Hinduism and Hindus, as to what he meant and what he did not mean, stating also as to what is his extent and substance of commitment to that faith. Because I would expect him to take his religion seriously, his faith seriously, understand his spiritual tradition seriously, because end of the day, he is also, apart from being a very respected political leader, he's also the professed practitioner of a faith. And I would expect that a professed practitioner of a faith also knows the faith that he's practicing. That's the ground on which I confidently make this request. The second part is, please think of giving a series of 4, 5, 6 lectures on how the best aspects of Hinduism, the riches of Hinduism, may be understood, especially by a non-Hindu citizen of India like me, so that I am able to relate better to this great tradition, and that we take a step forward in promoting communal harmony and meaningful religious coexistence, not as strangers to each other's faith, but as people who are at least partly educated concerning each other's faith. So I consider this to be an urgent requirement at the present time. And I also want to close with a request to the general public not to lend their ears to, not lend any credence to all malicious, ill motivated attempts to spread tension within the Hindu community for political gains, mainly by representing what Sri Rahul Gandhi is alleged to have said, which may not have existed anywhere near his consciousness, and certainly it does not exist at the level of what he said, to the extent that I could make out as I sat listened to him from first word to the last. Even so, as I said, a leader, especially a leader of the prominence that Rahul Gandhi is at the moment, he owes it to the people of India to set their apprehensions at rest, to clear the deck, to state the truth once and for all, so that the stratagems to spread communal tension, sectarian tension within the Hindu community itself may be nipped in the bud. So I make these requests in the hope and anticipation that he would take it seriously. And I want to thank him in advance for what he would do in response to this context. Thank you, and may good sense prevail in our country. May the national motto, namely Satyameva Jayate Jnanardam, truth alone triumphs, not falsehood, really come true in our life. But I want to emphasize that truth will prevail, truth will triumph only if every one of us chooses to stand by the truth that we know. You can't say that the truth will somehow triumph, but I will lend my ears to falsehood. Now, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't do any credit to our stature as human beings. So to believe in the aphorism that truth will triumph is also to make a commitment, a meaningful commitment, to making the truth that we know prevail, and to reject all stratagems based on falsehood to the extent that we are aware of them. Thank you, and all the very best. Jai Hind.